The newest changes to the Abyss are not what they look like, since there's some sneaky things happening with team building options, and this video will investigate the whole situation. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Figure Fantasy, the world's first 3D figurine gacha game. Collect tons of different characters, use them in tactical battles, and once the dust has settled, store them into your display cabinets like any self-respecting collector would do. And there's so many different sculpts in this game, from thuggish street style to something a little more serious like retro historical characters, which all come from a unique gacha system that gives this exciting feeling of unwrapping real figurines that you can then mix and match together and decorate with tons of different and thematic furniture in your storage cabinets. Also, you can take your figures to battles on a strategic 9-grid layout and witness their awesome animations that kind of reminds you of some of those big budget toy movies. And what's even cooler, you can play this as your side game because it will collect resources when you're busy doing something else. The game had just launched, and you can use my special promo code to earn free gifts and start building your figurine lot, so make sure to use the link in the description or pinned comment to support my channel and check out Figure Fantasy today. Let's be real for a moment here. The Abyss was never considered to be anything more than just a place you go into to get as many Primo Gems as you can before giving up and moving on to the next event that's happening right now in Genshin. That's basically the relationship a majority of players have with this endgame content, since there's been so many polls and reports that prove only a small percentage of people actually bother with clearing the whole Abyss, which then filters down into an even smaller group of players when we talk about obtaining 36 stars. So with all that in mind, you can probably imagine from the video's title where things have gone now that this newest cycle is live. To put it simply, while there's definitely quite a few interesting changes that push you forward into adapting to the new enemy rotations, for the most part, it's really just a glorified health sponge simulator. And by that, I mean your team's DPS plays an even bigger part than the last cycle we've seen, because you've got things like Mago Kenki triplets unleashing their nasty attacks, and Rifthounds dashing back and forth with their annoying movement patterns. Honestly, if miHoYo continues with this strategy, then basically there's a lot of things that tells us what the future holds for Genshin's meta, and more importantly, how the future character releases will be treated by the community. But let me dial this back a bit after throwing around so many random statements about this new Abyss cycle. First of all, healers are back on the menu. Not that this wasn't the case before, but because of the Rifthounds on the final floor, using a shield is not going to be enough, even if it can absorb wolf attacks, since the special corrosion mechanic goes right through it and can pose a lot of danger for players who use Hu Tao or Xiao, when they are usually only protected by a shield. Now, last time when something similar was happening on the 11th floor, the usage statistics have shown that unsurprisingly, Dione and Bennett were the top healers. Although now that corrosion is getting even more prevalent, characters like Kokomi and Barbara will be a more common sight at the final floor. But aside from this, the real culprit here has to be the scaling, or you could say the splitting of enemy health bars. If you thought that the previous iteration was unforgiving when you only had one target, or the enemies could be abused with different reactions and mechanics, now the rules of the game became even stricter. Honestly, these first impressions might change over the next few weeks, but as of now, it is important to note that upcoming 2.3 and even some of the 2.4 characters will get tested against these new enemy rotations, and one thing to look out for is that some of these future character evaluations might not be entirely correct, and in order to give you a better answer to this statement, we need to go into this next part. It's probably the best time to address the elephant in the room, or should we call it a bowl instead? I mean, it's no secret this newest cycle is basically tailor-made for Mono Geo teams, or even comps that utilize double Geo, but while you could say this is a win for meta diversity, there are some things that might go unnoticed, especially if you take what's shown for granted in some of those Genshin videos out there. Now, you'd think that Floor 11 is the suspect here at selling you the idea of Mono Geo, just like the previous time when Corrosion and Kokomi cross-promoted each other, but as a matter of fact, I think it's totally fine to let players have fun and see big modified damage numbers on any floor that doesn't start with the number 12. The only reason why we're even talking about floor 11 is that you should in no shape or form take it as a serious evaluation for any of the Geo characters, especially once Itto and Gorou come out, since, you know, their numbers are going to be boosted unnaturally high. And I know this couldn't get more obvious, but you'd be surprised how many times these massive bonuses are used as a way to prove something, and now that Geo is going going to be center of attention for a very long time, this specific floor should never be taken seriously, unless of course it's just for the sake of entertainment. But with this out of the way, the actual things that need to be addressed are the Rifthounds in floor 12, more specifically, the Rockfond versions. Believe it or not, but it seems like a lot of people don't know how these wolves work, and it's not that big of a deal. miHoYo isn't known as someone who provides the most clear-cut instructions on how to deal with different enemies, especially with some hidden mechanics that never get fully explained. But the thing about these Rifthounds is that they will take a ton of damage if the elemental attack matches their own alignment, which does come with a trade-off that puts them into a devour state where they'll become more furious and perform a lot more attacks than usual. So what am I getting at? Well, if you're up against one of these Geo Wolves using Geo character attacks, the smaller ones will get minus 30% resistance shred, while the bigger ones receive a whopping minus 65% reduction, and you can see here just how much more damage they'll receive from incoming Geo attacks, turning the fight against them and providing you with a spectacle of beautiful damage numbers. The problem here is that while we're used to the idea of seeing amplified damage numbers on lower floors of the Abyss, this is clearly a strategic move done by miHoYo to even further promote the idea of using either double or Mono Geo teams, and the results regarding these team comps are going to be, well, not misleading, but you could say seasonal. And by that, I mean right now in the Abyss cycle, Mono Geo teams can be placed into the second part of the chamber and have a huge advantage against these Rifthounds, but once the next monster rotation comes, the damage will definitely get reduced unless miHoYo introduces some kind of a Geo buff for the last floor. Maybe it's strange to hear this, as I'm definitely excited to see Mono Geo teams come into play, but at the same time, unless you're willing to go for the first half of the floor 12, where you won't see such a massive resistance shred, it is possible Mono Geo damage might get skewed results if you only take into account floor 11 and the Geo Rifthounds as a way to evaluate them. So to ensure we understand the actual potential of new upcoming Geo characters, many other matchups need to be tested, not just the ones that are in favor for Geo characters. Luckily, this does sort of get addressed against the triple Mago Kenki, since they are in the same chamber as the Geo Rifthounds, so if there's any reference to draw from about the current and upcoming Geo character's power level, then it would be these three samurais. Ultimately, it's not the worst idea to put enemies who are directly weak against the new upcoming characters, but at the same time, it's also important to stay sharp and remain cautious before deciding just how strong the new Mono Geo is going to be. Still, it is nice to see Noelle having a blast with her spin to win strategy. With everything that has been said so far, the overall impressions about this newest Abyss cycle are kind of interesting to say the least. On one hand, Electro and Geo often get criticized, but now that Rifthounds are dominating the final floor, you can easily bring these two elements for both sides and come out with great results, since those massive resistance shreds isn't something you can just ignore. I mean, you can go with a team that won't capitalize on the Rifthounds' weakness and still get 9 stars, but at the same time, there's now an opportunity window for those who have heavily invested into one of these elements, and this is especially a happy moment for those who have a proper Tazer team, or at least have Beto built, because coincidentally, it's always 2 Rifthounds that spawn, and you know how much Beto's burst loves to jump between its 2 targets. However, even if I did say previously healers are more important than ever, you still cannot ignore the insane amount of attacks the Mago Kenki trio are going to be dishing out, so without a character that offers a strong shield, you will get interrupted almost every second, and you cannot waste time dodging as well, so this leaves you with an extremely niche requirement to have a shield character in order to pass this chamber within the 3-star time limit. Or, you know, just be a whale and do whatever, and still come out at the top. But the biggest problem here has to be the fact that while this new Abyss cycle difficulty spike has gone up, the rewards remain the same, and the players who already struggled with the previous iteration are only going to have even tougher luck. It's just annoying to see that the best way miHoYo can come up with the challenge is by throwing at you more enemies with higher health bars. Like, yeah, it's nice that things just got a lot more challenging, and someone who is a veteran endgame player will get a kick out of this new updated Abyss, but it's also a bit sad to see this place become even more discouraging for casual players. Like it or not, it's pretty clear miHoYo are doubling down on trying to sell you the idea of Mono Geo viability, even if they are going to artificially boost its performance by a massive amount through the 11th floor and Geo Rifthounds. So with this in mind, it's going to be especially important to first ask the question, what is the general performance of the upcoming Geo characters without any of the boosts, in order to get a clear answer. But aside from this new Abyss cycle is probably the most challenging one so far, and not in a sense that it requires a lot of skill or luck, luck, but instead it just has more aggressive requirements for your team to meet certain DPS expectations. And if this method of spiking up the difficulty continues, what about future character evaluations, since this place has been the ultimate testing grounds for new character reviews? Well, honestly, it's probably for the best to just remain cautious for now and wait to see what the next update brings, while in the meantime, good luck beating this new cycle, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thanks, and see you soon.